an independent researcher, a poet and short storyteller. He writes about the struggle and resilience of Indian marginalized people and underdogs, the outcasts are invisible. He has 12 books, and his recent publication includes Identity and Belonging, Mapping the Margin. And next is Banglar Musulman, Samajir, Samaj Pirone, Don Bittan. Third is the violence in literature, culture and society. Next is the lynching in Indian literature, culture and society. And with this, I hand over you the session, and we have.
Shall we start?
Yes.
Here, Anwar Hossain, Assistant Professor, Nagar College. Sumitro Assistant Professor of Nagar College. Title of the paper is Relevance of Nazrul's Short Stories Today.
Thank you, sir. I'm Anwar Hussain, Assistant Professor, Nagar College, and we have jointly written a paper between.
10 minutes you have, but you cannot read, you need not to read the whole paper. Only you begin and say your key arguments which you have raised in this paper. What are the key arguments? What do you want to say to the audience about Nazrul's short stories? Please proceed.
Okay, sir. And the title of my paper is Relevance of Nazrul's Short Stories Today. Nazrul's short stories typically center around the perennial themes like love, war, various socio, eco, political, cultural issues, religious hypocrisy, and the search for identity. However, the reader is also equally fascinated to discover a wide range of references to myths, literature, and the holy books in Nazrul's short stories. Nazrul could not confine himself within the narrow boundary of a particular religious community. The focus of this paper is the all-inclusive horizon of his writing as revealed in the short stories. The aim is to trace the Bengali Muslim post-colonial identity amidst a mingling of several cultures, a legacy restored by Nazrul across generational timelines spilling over into the present. During the first half of the 20th century, the age-old communal tensions seemed to intrude on the communal harmony of Bengal, partly because of the British policy of divide and rule. Nazrul resisted against the communal politics advocated by the British. Nazrul raised his voice against the Hindu-Muslim conflict, even when patriotism was being equated with Hindu nationalism, and various organizations were formed on communal lines. Nazrul acquired a natural inclination towards an inclusive cultural heritage, perhaps because of his familiarity with the Sufi poets. Another reason for his secular bent of mind might be his inclination towards Russian socialism. Thus, as a true artist, he grasps the need of the post-colonial movement, and he was bent on preserving the communal harmony in the moments of crisis. As pointed out by Vasudha Chakraborty, at the moments of communal tensions, Nazrul expressed his apprehension in a conversation with Rabindranath. In the essay Temple and Mosque, Nazrul wrote, Rudra is on his way, who will bring an end to the assemblies of the ones intoxicated by religion, and will demolish all those temples, mosques, churches, and shall bring all under a unified dome of the sky. He further wrote, they are drunk on religion, they have not drunk the light of truth. Again in the essay Hindu-Muslim, Nazrul wrote, I quote, the prophets of the avatars never claimed to have come exclusively for either the Hindus or the Muslims or the Christians. They have proclaimed that they have come for humanity, just like light is meant for everyone. Unquote. Nazrul was not a prophet, but he loved mankind and he believed in the advancement of mankind. According to Vasudha Chakraborty, I quote again, the alluvial soil of Bengal has had the reputation of building up an emotional trust in the Bengali mind. Many currents of ideas have gone into the making of that trust. Unquote. Thus, in his quest for a Bengali Muslim identity, Nazrul repeatedly harks back to myths, folklores, literature, and the scriptures. Indeed, Nazrul not only mitigated the question of Hindu-Muslim coexistence in the short stories, but also incorporated the cultural and religious traditions of the world. In other words, in Nazrul's short stories, there is a mingling of different cultural elements, crossing the temporal and spatial boundaries, which may be traced as one of the important elements of the Bengal Renaissance. Now I come to the short stories. In the Harvest of Sorrow, there is a reference to the Holy Quran, mosques as well as puja, all juxtaposed in a harmonious way, portraying a picture of India with all its diversity. Again, in another short story, The King of the Jinns, there is a reference to the Kissa of Hanif and Joygan Bibi. Again, in another short story, Half Asleep, there is a reference to the mythical lovebirds, Chakur Chakuri. In Insatiate Desire and the Agony of the Destitute, there are references to Karbala, and later from a political prisoner refers to a novel by Sharad Chandra. Again, there are references to Vijender Lal Roy's plays in Half Asleep and the Agony of the Destitute. There are also references to Hafiz, Rumi, and Rabindranath songs in Harvest of Sorrow. Nazrul refers to Kazi festival in the relentless rain, Rahu in letter from a political prisoner, and Mahishasur in the agony of the destitute. In the King of the Jinns, there is a reference to the fallen angel Satan and the deity of love and desire, Madan, and one finds Israfil in Henna. In the King of the Jinns, one finds that the Kayastha families lived at a distance from the Muslim families. In the writer's imagination, I quote from the short story, they kept apart as if to save themselves from the impurity of the Muslim touch. There was a suspicion of the other.
You have 2 minutes.
As one finds in the character of Mini's mother at the beginning of Rabindranath's short story, Kabuli Wala. As one stretches one's imagination beyond the natural world and steps into the realm of the supernatural, one finds there also a cultural mixing. There is a mention to omens in the widow predicting the advent of disaster, and there is a black cat in the king of the jinns. Along with jinns, there is a list of ghosts from Bengali literature and folklore. Akano, Mamdo, mother of the Sevenites, Bomodoti, the Brahmin demon, Kolkata, the headless spirit. It's interesting to note that Nazrul's realm of the supernatural, including jinns, yaksha, apparitions, and ghosts from Bengali literature and folklore, as found in the King of the Jinns and the Lotus Cobras. Again, one finds jinns and fairies in Henna and Aladdin's land in the Lotus Cobras. Now, coming to the conclusion. Yes, sir, I'm concluding. Thus, in his short stories, Nazrul was reluctant to represent the Bengali Muslims as isolated beings. One finds in his short stories gods, goddesses, myths, folklore, past and contemporary literature of the world, and even the supernatural. And amidst the mingling of all these elements, Nazrul sought a Bengali Muslim's identity. It is the all-inclusive interflow which can define the post-colonial as well as the present self as Nazrul envisioned, and which was also theorized in terms of hybridity by Homike Bhabam. Indeed, Nazrul was like an ocean in whom all the streams of religious traditions, cultures, literature, myth, and fantasies of the world mingle together to form the beauty of a rainbow. Thank you.
Next. Atrayee Sinha, Ph.D. scholar, Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad. The title of our paper is Notions of Nationhood in the Poetry of Kazi Nazrul Islam. Please go ahead.
Yes. So I'll just start with the paper. I'll be discussing the notion of nationhood in the poetry, or I have selected a few poetries through which we can understand what kind of a nation did Kazi Nazrul Islam believed in, or what kind of a nation was he looking forward to. So the first thing that I'll be taking up is why poetry and what is political poetry. So Shelley's The Defense of Poetry ends with a romantic line, poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And several national poets were politically active and associated with the national movement throughout history. Poetry as a form of protest has been used since Alexander Pope. Poetry is often seen as a sophisticated exercise, but poets like Lord Byron, Alexander Pope have proven otherwise in history. The poetry of nationalism has its roots in the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. Poets have asserted their artistic individuality and expressed their nationalistic ideas through their poems. Political poetry has given the world ideals of justice, freedom, and brotherhood of man, and sometimes brought the humiliation, grievance, and lamentations of the past through history. Poets use a mixture of myth, imagined communities to bring forward their ideas and to bring forward their ideologies through poetry. When it comes to the national literature in colonial Bengal and how it has led to Kazi Nazrul Islam. So basically the national literature of the Bengali language in the 19th century came from the realization of a need for a strong language-based identity for the Bengalis. It derived from the need for such an identity that it involved an urgent need of self-respect vis-a-vis the British. To Bengalis, nationalist literature was needed to invoke their nationalist consciousness. Patriotic literature of any country derives its nature from pride in the past and humiliation of the present. Pride in the past gives rise to historical poems, and the use of historical elements in modern poetry imbibes pride and encourages anchoring to help and helps to anchor through the present. It speaks eloquently of the past to encourage people to fight against being subordinate to the present. Similarly, the search for historical heroes in India continued to inspire Indians to face the present, and we would observe the same in a lot of Nazrul's poetry as well. As for the nationalist literature in colonial Bengal, it started with the Hindu Mela of 1867 in Kolkata, which saw various members of the Tagore family comprise songs and poems in honor of India and tried to imbibe a patriotic feeling among Indians. But one should be aware that the Hindu Mela, the word Hindu is synonymous to the word Jatiyo over here, and most of the songs in the Mela cultivated a sense of national consciousness, and some spoke against the Hindu medieval resistance to lift the spirit of India. Rabindranath Tagore presented his poem Hindu Mela Pohar Hindu Mela Pohar at the annual gathering of the Mela in 1875. Similarly, Tagore's and others novels such as Goda, Home of the World, and Chaturanga, which explores various colonial themes. When it comes to Kazi Nazrul, it also coincided with the partition, the writings of Kazi Nazrul or the growing up of Kazi Nazrul. It also coincided with two phenomenal events that happened in Bengal. One was the partition of Bengal, and the other was the Swadeshi movement. Both of these movements led to an enormous rise of poets and in and around Bengal at that point of time. And we will be discussing Kazi Nazrul Islam around the same setting, the end of the World War I to till 1936 as a probable period. So, one of the important factors that led to Nazrul's writing was the socio-political context at that point of time. So to sum it up, the context of Kazi Nazrul's work can be best understood through his growing years. He was born in 1899. The early 20th century in Bengal was when Bengali nationalists became revolutionary, engaging in physical activities and secret societies. We have leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh, Ratindranath Banerjee, and Satish Ghosh, and institutions like Konushilan Samiti and Jugaadwar. So around this point of time, this was the point of time around which Nazrul was growing up. His own teacher, Nobin Chandra Bhattu, was a member of Jugaadwar, and he was inspired by these political activities that was happening around that point of time. Nazrul also grew under Lord Curzon's despotic rule in Bengal and the Bengal partition. He was exposed to the revolutionary attitudes of the Indians and mostly the Bengalis. He grew up at a time when the Muslim League was formed, the creation of a separate university for Muslims, and the communal tension that was going on around that period of time. So basically, his writings have been influenced by three cultural traditions: Bengali, Indian, and West Asia, where the Turkish Revolution and leaders like Kemal Atatürk influenced him. Nazrul's support for Turkish independence throughout his poem Kamal Pasha in 1921 was well received in Bengal. The disillusionment of the fall of the Ottoman Empire under the British was followed by the rise of Kamal Pasha, who inspired thousands of Indians who viewed his rule as a triumphant rise against the British rule. Turkish nationalism inspired Kazi Nazrul Islam to write and inspire Indians. In Kamal Pasha, he writes, and I quote, "Oi pepeche pagli mayer damal chele Kamal bhai, oshur pure jor utheche jor se shamal shamal dai. Kamal tune Kamal kiya bhai, ho Kamal tune Kamal kiya bhai." The above lines are basically a congratulatory message, are not only just a congratulatory message to Kamal Pasha in general before he actually took up the rule, but in general was a message to Indians, showing them that it is very much possible to defeat the British forces and take over control of our future. the new nationhood of Turkey should inspire us to look forward and fight and take whatever is ours. Interestingly also, the poem refers to Turkey as a mother, most probably so as to make the Indian people feel included in understanding the Turkish revolution at that point of time. So the nationalistic themes in Nazrul's writings. So one of the main themes through which we can understand what Nazrul wanted for the nation was his speech in October 1922. So he was one of the first who wanted complete independence from colonial rule in India, and the ideals through which he wanted his nationalistic ambition to succeed was, he wrote this in Dhumketu in 13th October 1922. স্বরাজ টরাজ বুঝি না, কেননা ও কথাকার মানে এক এক মহারথী এক এক রকম করে থাকে। ভারতবর্ষের এক পরিমাণ অংশ বিদেশির অধীনে থাকবে না। ভারতবর্ষ সম্পূর্ণ দায়িত্ব, সম্পূর্ণ স্বাধীনতা রক্ষার শাসনভার সমস্ত থাকবে ভারতীয়দের হাতে। তাতে কোনো বিদেশি মোড়লের অধিকারটুকু পর্যন্ত থাকবে না। So Nazrul was also one of the first pioneers who asked for total independence, and at that point of time, in the Indian National Congress barely asked for representation in the British government. Coming over to one of his other significant poetry prevalent themes is wanting an egalitarian society through nationalism. The nation that he imagines is equal in all respect. It included men and women with similar roles, spoke for the poor, and did not tolerate the communalism engulfing society in the 20th century. The poem constantly engaged the discussion on difference and questions people are the same. For example, in Shammavali he writes, গাই সাম্যের গান, যেখানে আসিয়া এক হয়ে গেছে সব বেদা ব্যবধান, যেখানে মিশেছে হিন্দু, বৌদ্ধ, মুসলিম, খ্রিস্টান, গাই সাম্যের গান। কে তুমি? পার্সি, জৈন, ইহুদি, সুতাল, ভিল, গারো, কনফুসিয়াস, চার্বক, চেলা, বলে যাও বলো আরো। So these are few examples, and these are the way he imagined the nation as to be. A nation which is free from all kinds of an independent nation which should be free from all kinds of religious dogmas as well as different cultural regiments. He was also a communist. He was lifelong engaged with his communist friend Muzaffar Ahmad as a socialist in the Indian political movement. As a founding member of the Workers' and Peasants Party.
2 minutes. Please conclude.
Yes, sure. So, as a member of the Workers' and Peasants Party of Bengal in 1926, he stood for the workers through his magazine Lagol and through his different, a lot of variety of writings around that point of time. He wanted to help. He also was a member of the agricultural organizations within the Congress at that point of time, and he tried to include all sections of the labor and the peasant class in his work, and and often he used his songs to promote unity and leadership among the people. So. Yeah, so I actually had a few more quotes, but due to the shortage of time, I would like to conclude. Yes, so my work is kind of an exploratory work, which is trying to understand his ideas of nationalism through his different works, poetry, prose, and his involvement in different organizations, political organizations at that point of time. And this is just a subsection of what I have done till now. And so I'd like to conclude and.
Okay, thank you.
So Nazrul, interestingly, was never a member of the Communist Party of India, and that was quite surprising, provided that he was politically active from the beginning and the start of the the formation of the Communist Party of India. And his friend was involved, and he was there throughout the journey. And one of the reasons probably I feel that was not there because he was a very, he did not want it to be segregated or be put into one label, because probably that would have stopped him from exploring his writings or his thought process. And when it comes to the literature, you asked, right? So he was one of the first who translated the international into Bengali, and which is known as Ontor National. We have that translation. He was also at that point of time. So there is also a huge chunk of his work, like Shamobadi, Song of the Peasants, and his involvement in the fishermen's movement, in the agricultural movements, which speaks volumes through his actions and through his poetries and novels as well. But they may not be as direct. Yeah, I think. Thank you.
So, is there any observation or anything else? So, I have a small question for Anwar Hussain. So, your title is Relevance of Nazrul Short Stories Today. Okay. Relevance of Nazrul Short Stories Today. So, where is your today? In your paper, there is no today.
Sir, actually, what Nazrul has given us.
Now, what do you mean by today? Relevance of Nazrul
It means
Short Stories
the present.
2024.
Yes.
So what do you think about the 2024 show?
Sir, the communal tension is still there, and Nazrul has given us that solution.
Is there any paragraph in your paper about
Yes,
this
yes,
conflict?
yes. I've spoken about the mingling of cultures.
So one
how the
point
coexistence
is
of
that the
both.
communal tension is rising, Hindu rights and radicalization is happening. Any other thing? Any other thing?
Sir, how all the religions are
So communal
coexisting side by
communalism is a
side.
big problem. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
besides communalism or except communalism, is there any no?
Also, the sir, the cultural.
It is only the problem of communalism is the only problem of India or only problem of West Bengal. There are huge many problems. Communal
Sir, that is one of the problems, and I focus on one of the problems. Yes,
No,
sir.
your-
One of the problems.
One of the problems. Your focus- your paper is about communalism, religious hypocrisy, Hindu-Muslim conflict, orthodox against orthodoxy, and Sufism, etc., etc. And you have also spoken about the humanitarian aspect of Kazi Nazrul, mixture of folklore, inclusive identity. You have said. But where is the where are the oppressed? For whom he is a lifelong champion of the oppressed.
Sir, I haven't focused on that area in my paper.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And for one slight aspect to it, and Atrayee Sinha.
Yes, sir.
So আমার মনে হচ্ছে এখানে একটু মানে যদি বুঝতে সুবিধা হয় আমি অন্তত বুঝতে পারলাম মানে যেহেতু পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স আমার তো পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স না আমার তো মানে গল্প কবিতার ব্যাপার তো আমাকে দিয়েছে চেয়ার বলতে কিন্তু পলিটিক্যাল সায়েন্স ফলে মুশকিলে পড়েছিলাম তো আপনার পেপারে যেটা আছে আপনি লিখেছেন নোশনস অফ নেশনহুড তো নেশনহুড তখন সেই সময় ধরুন সেই সময়ে নেশনহুড একদিকে আপনি বলছেন যে নজরুল ইসলামের সাম্যবাদী কবি কমিউনিস্ট সাম্যবাদীর কথা বলেছেন আবার যে সাম্যবাদ বা সাম্যবাদের অ্যাঙ্গেলে তো সারা বিশ্বই আমাদের পৃথিবী তাই না আবার একদিকে বলছেন যে ইন্ডিয়ার জন্য তিনি মানে ব্রিটিশদের বিরুদ্ধে ইন্ডিয়ান যে নেশনহুড তার কথা বলছেন তাহলে কিরকম দুরকম ব্যাপার হয়ে গেল নাকি মানে আমার এটা জাস্ট মনে হচ্ছে আপনার আপনি নেশনহুড ক্লেম করছেন ইন্ডিয়ার জন্য ব্রিটিশদের বিরুদ্ধে আবার আপনি বলছেন সাম্যবাদ তো সাম্যবাদ তো আপনার নেশনহুড স্বীকার করে মনে হয় একটা সিঙ্গেল নেশনহুডের অত জোর দেয় সারা বিশ্বই পৃথিবী সেটা ভাবে
স্যার আমি হয়তো ঠিক করে মানে এক্সপ্লেন করতে পারিনি ওভার হিয়ার সাম্যবাদ বলতে আই এম টকিং অ্যাবাউট ইকুয়ালিটি ইন টার্মস অফ অ্যাজ আ নেশন for example the different political communities that exist the different religions that exist the rich and the poor so equality in terms of that so যখন উনি সাম্যবাদী লিখছেন তো সেই egalitarian society through the nation so I think due to the scarcity of time I could not mention it.
Okay, thank you. But egalitarianism and communism cannot be the same.
Yes, sir. So he was a pillar of ideas. His ideas are evolving And that's why
Okay,
it's an
thank you.
exploratory work.
Okay, thank you for the participant for your excellent choice of the subject. But fortunately or unfortunately, the two papers centered around Nazrul. One is poetry and one is short story. So, Hossain?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Siddik.